We are back with another episode of Steelers Crazy. I'm JY. This is Michael Nicastro, and it is officially mock draft season. Who are the Pittsburgh Steelers going to take? Sammy, let's get on the clock.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy.
Aaron Smith shields. Flacco Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 43. Pittsburgh might be bound for that thanks to number 43.
The sickest Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Yo.
Hey, man. Hey, so I want to talk about, before we get into mock draft, kind of, I think it's been since like 7th or 8th grade. You know, we were watching the Steelers win Super Bowl XL and sending the bus off into the retirement. You've been doing mock drafts for that long. So if anyone is a mock draft guru, it is this guy. And even if I didn't know him from a can of paint, I would still say that he is the one and only Michael Nicastro, mock draft guru. Welcome to the show.
Wow, that is a introduction that I am unworthy of. First of all, I just noticed how big my microphone looks in this shot. It's creeped me out a little bit. But anyway, it's a good thing that I actually have a microphone today. So I think we'll take some of the good with the bad. But yeah, I think it was a healthy addiction back in middle school and high school for sure. Even though I skipped a lot of homework assignments and a lot of really important school-related things to fill out mock drafts with. I remember the Ronnie Brown year and the Jay Cutler year, and you know, doing mock drafts back in like 2007. I think I nailed Ben Roethlisberger and Ricardo Coakley to the Steelers in the same mock draft.
Back. Wow.
Yeah,
Ricardo
man.
Coakley.
2004. So that was like what I hang my hat on for a long time. And then the last couple of years, obviously, with the inception of Yins Are Crazy, this podcast, I've done well to a degree as well. So I don't want to jinx that. I did not land Kenny Pickett last year, but the year before I hit on, some, but definitely not a lot. The year before I hit on Najee Harris, a lot of people definitely did. And then the year before, I actually nailed Chase Claypool in the second round as the Steelers' first pick. So I have receipts, bro. I got receipts.
There you go. That's all you need. So, how do you want to do this? Do we have the graphics, Sammy, that we're bringing up, or are we just going to go pick by pick? How are we going to do this?
Let's go pick and then graphic maybe, so it can be a little bit of a drum roll, like you said.
All right. Well, with the 17th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select.
Where's that drum roll? Really make people nervous out there.
Yeah.
They select Deontay Banks, cornerback from Maryland. He's a Terp. He's a terrapin, as Scott Van Pelt would say. Look at that. That is a sick graphic.
Wow.
He's a sick player.
Holy crap.
He's jacked. He's mean. He's lean. You know, he plays with tenacity and an edge that you want as a Pittsburgh Steeler, and obviously a guy who's going to be guarding the likes of Jamar Chase, you know, potentially T. Higgins, Amari Cooper out there on the outside. This is a bit of a surprise, I wrote down, because I had Brian Branch, the safety from Alabama, available in my mock draft, who a lot of people are penciling in right now after the loss of Terrell Edmunds, after the loss of Cam Sutton, because he kind of fills a little bit of both of those roles as he plays in the slot and in the box safety. But Deontay Banks is just a better player.
Yeah.
And I went back and I watched some tape on Banks versus Ohio State and Michigan, and he popped. I was like, damn, I didn't expect this guy to be this good. I just didn't. You know, he had some vibes around him that he was this combine freak standout that really propelled him into the first round based on his combine numbers. But his tape said first round to me, and I feel like his combine numbers just solidified that. So he had really good games against Ohio State and Michigan. And Brian Branch didn't have great games against Tennessee in Texas this past season. So I think Brian Branch fits a bigger need probably, but Deontay Banks is the better player with bigger upside. He is an outside corner, which ultimately, obviously, the Steelers are going to need help in the secondary all around. Kind of can learn behind Patrick Peterson there. He's bigger, he's over 6 foot. He ran a 4.35 40 at the combine, tested in the 99th percentile RAS score. That's relative athletic score. So the 99th percentile in terms of cornerbacks that come out in the NFL draft in their athleticism. So this is a bit of a surprise. And I want to mention 2 things as well, Jordan, before I kick it back to you. I ran through every pick.
I thought you were going to say you ran the 40.
Yeah, right. I'd probably run a 7.30. I don't do much cardio anymore. I was just getting into the fact that I don't just pick these names out of a hat. For me, I go 1 through 16, and I had Broderick Jones, a tackle from Georgia, gone, and Joey Porter Jr., the pick before the Steelers at pick 16, gone as well. Both of those I think the Steelers will have ranked higher than Banks. But in this exercise, Banks is the guy.
What
do you think? Corner round 1.
Yeah, I do. But what I wanted to ask you is, if Joey Porter Jr. is available, would you still take Banks over Porter?
That's a really good question. I think the Steelers would have a really fiery debate in their war room, because I think Banks showed more both on tape and at the combine, but Porter probably has a higher ceiling.
Yeah,
he has
and the connection
length,
with his
long
dad,
arms, and the connection with the Steelers. I'll say this: I would take Banks based on what I watched, but I think the Steelers would take Porter. Good question. Wow.
I will say with my pick at 17, I'm an offensive lineman guy, Peter Skoronski, Northwestern, if he's available. But I honestly think the dude is a top 10 pick. I literally we met him at the combine, and the dude's calf muscles were like as big as my biceps. So he's definitely going to be a problem in the league. Definitely would be great for him to protect Kenny Pickett. But again, you never know. I think a lot of this draft this year is there's so many good QBs that's what's going to shake up whatever the QBs. I mean, you already seen a trade, for the number 1 overall pick. I mean, things can get crazy. You never know what's going on in the war rooms, like you said. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy. The NFL offseason has just been so. I don't know. Now it's because it's like our job, like to follow it and stuff now, and we're more like in tune to it. But it's like there's so much like we were talking to Anella and Sammy off air. The NFL there is no off season in the NFL. It's constant, and then before you know it, OTAs, preseason, and then boom, week 1, we'll be waving the terrible towels. All right. So with pick number 32, the Pittsburgh Steelers select
not an offensive lineman.
Oh,
and I'm going to get my head absolutely ripped off, because people are going to tweet me and say, no offensive lineman in the first round. Are you kidding me? But the fact of the matter is they have 2 picks, right? I say first round because pick 32 to me is a first round pick. It's always been that, even though it's the first pick of the second round. No matter what 2 players you put in that position, people are going to say, oh my gosh, you left out a corner or you left out a defensive lineman, right? They still have picked 49, so they can fill their top 3 needs in those 3 picks. This is another pick for me where I took value over need, okay? I think the best player on the board at that point for the Steelers, offensive lineman I had, was Anton Harrison, good player, but I had DeJuan Jones going to the Bengals. I actually consider him at 17. And I had Darnell Wright from Tennessee going in the early 20s. So I think both of those guys might flip the script a little bit in terms of who they would take. But the Steelers love Mazi Smith. They addressed the offensive line this offseason a bit more significantly than they invested in the D-line in terms of Samalo, talk Nate Herbig. Defensive line, you just brought back Larry Ogunjobi. You have an aging Cam Hayward. You have DeMarvin Leal, who I think they are still pretty high on and want to get some reps. But you need to take some pressure off of Cam, some snaps away from Ogunjobi as well. Mazi Smith is a beast. Mike Tomlin had 2 meetings with him. 2. It shows you how much he likes him. He could play on the outside in a 3-4, 5-tech, 3-tech, also some nose. Versatile, mean. His tape flashed as well. So the Steelers go defense, back-to-back picks. Banks, Smith, 17 and 32 right now in mock 2.0.
Yeah, I mean, that was a surprise at number 32 because there's still people that think that we're going to, if Jordan Addison falls that low, that they're going to take it. But there is another, we'll get to that pick, pick number
Maybe a
80.
Michigan man taking over for a Michigan man. Our guy,
Yeah.
Chris Wormley, who knows what's going to happen to him yet? He
Yeah.
remains unsigned,
I really
coming
hope they
off
sign
a
him.
serious knee injury. But a Michigan man, of course, we talked so much Michigan ball with him on the Chris Wormley and Friends show these past
Yeah.
couple years. Who knows? Maybe the Mazi Smith show. Not that we're kicking our guy Worm to the side, but at the very least, have some Michigan roots on the Steelers still.
Definitely. With pick number 49, the Pittsburgh Steelers select.
There's that offensive lineman. You knew we were going to get there eventually. Blake Freeland,
Wow.
tackle, BYU. I think guard is off the board after the signings of Samalu, and of course a couple swing guys as well in there. Blake Freeland. All right, here's the theme for the Pittsburgh Steelers so far this offseason when signing offensive linemen. You got to be over 6 foot. You got to be over 300 pounds. Samalo 6'4", 305. Herbig 6'4", 335. LaRaven Clark 6'5", 320. Blake Freeland 6'8", 305. He can dunk a basketball without even jumping. He
Yeah.
has enormous presence. He fits the mold. He's kind of like DeJuan Jones in the fact that he stands out because of how damn big he is. 4-year starter, captain at BYU. I think he can come in right away and start on the Steelers' offensive line, push Dan Moore to the bench or Chooks, make them obviously more valuable as well. He tested incredibly well. I think the only question for the Steelers is, will he drop to pick 49? I think he's maybe somebody that put himself in the conversation for earlier second round.
Yeah, definitely. So the next pick that we have, the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 80. So this guy, I actually talked to him at the Combine.
Yeah, you did.
Somewhat of a local guy, I guess you can say. So yeah, just go. I just wanted to tease it just a little bit, but yeah, he was very, very well spoken. And I went back after that when I was sitting at the hotel waiting to go eat steak and everything else and pasta with Sammy. I watched his highlight tape and I was like, dude, I know that he's I don't want to give it too much away, but this dude can ball. So go ahead with pick number 80. Who are the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting?
Yeah, the Steelers did not get Joey Porter Jr. in the first round, but they get a Nittany Lion here. Wide receiver Parker Washington. And before I continue, tell me about that conversation you had with him at the Senior Bowl. He was receptive to playing for the Steelers, right?
Yeah, I mean, he basically was like, I played football in Pennsylvania, and I know the rich history and what it means to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know if Kenny Pickett seems to have like a connection with Muth, so why not another Penn State guy? I mean, I'm a Pitt guy, but hey, talent is talent, man. And this dude, again, watching his tape, I'm like, this guy's a menace. Like this, he was honestly like, I know he's a wide receiver, but he was definitely giving me like Pat Freiermuth vibes a little bit. So
the Steelers need a slot receiver now desperately.
yeah.
Steven Sims is gone. He's in Houston.
I was ashamed to see that. That hurt me more than Terrell. Yeah, because the good special team players, especially now, I think like when we were growing up, like the Hank Poteets, Devin Hester, Dante Hall, like those were like the X factors, literally. Like they were, there was, yeah.
Good for him being put in that Dante Hall.
Shout out Hank Poteet. But yeah. But basically, it's like having a good special team. I mean, we watched Ryan Switzer run 10 yards back and lose 10 yards every time. And then, you have people that are calling fair catches and dropping a ball. So I just feel like it's very important to have he was explosive. I think you tweeted it like 20 times, at least every time they played. Like he has that shift and so it was, I did. And I wish him the best. But hey, and that's what was even crazy. I mean, Zach Gentry, they signed him. That was shocking to me. I mean, I don't think that they utilized him in the right way. But like now they have how many tight ends? Connor Hayward. I mean, it's like tight end university over at Southside.
Yeah. So the reason you brought up special teams, and that's a good I think, segue into Calvin Austin III, who the Steelers think can take over that Steven Sims role, punt return, kick return.
Mm-hmm.
I think he can too. I don't have faith in him taking over that slot receiver role.
Mm-mm.
I think he's a nice gadget, a fun player, but he's tiny. He's 5'7", 5'8", like 165 pounds soaking wet. I look back at the smallest receivers in the NFL. I threw some names out there, some recent draft picks from Jalen Darden at 5'8", Rondale Moore at 5'7", Jakeem Grant 5'7", Amari Rogers 5'9", Wan'Dale Robinson might be the only exception because the jury's still out at 5'7". But these guys have a common theme in that they haven't really been productive receivers at all. So I don't have a lot of faith in Calvin Austin III outside of being a good return man, because the history shows that guys around 5'7" just don't become premier slot receivers. Parker Washington, according to Pro Football Focus, played 87.5% of his snaps at Penn State in the slot. He's a little bigger, a little over 5'10". He's got some bulk to him, about 210. And he's productive in a run-first offense. So I think in the fourth round for the Pittsburgh Steelers at pick 80, he would be really, really solid value. The third round, I should say.
Yeah, so we'll get you were jumping early because you can't wait to talk about this round 4 pick at 120. So with the fourth pick at 120, the Pittsburgh Steelers football franchise selects
Ivan Pace Jr., linebacker, Cincinnati. And this is going to be our last pick for today on the show. I didn't want to get into the seventh rounders
we're picked out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do that in my final mock draft. But we're picked out. But Ivan Pace Jr., linebacker, Cincinnati, he fits actually the prototype that the Steelers went for this offseason in Cole Holcomb and a Landon Roberts. He's big. He's a run stopper. First, he's not great in coverage, which I think the Steelers could probably afford to find somebody who is, quite frankly. But Pace is a steal at this point. He played his first few years at Miami of Ohio. He transferred to Cincinnati last season because he wanted to show that he could play with the big boys, and boy, did he ever. He became the first unanimous All-American at the University of Cincinnati. It's 135 years of football, Jordan. 135 years of football, I think. I don't know how it's possible, honestly, but it's what I read. I don't know that they were playing in 1898, but maybe.
I don't want to know what the helmets. I don't want to know. They probably didn't even wear helmets back then. It was like what we used to play rough and tumble. I looked
glorified at rugby.
I actually have like a Steelers, like a evolution, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the team that I'm looking at it right now. They literally have the Steagles on there, and these helmets literally look like just like pleather. Like that's 1943, 1933. That's when the Steelers became the greatness.
Well, whether it's rugby or professional football, I think Pace is going to be a good player. Fills another need. And yeah, transferring to Cincinnati paid off. He was the AAC Defensive Player of the Year last year. So getting him in the fourth round, come on, man. Sign up for that any freaking day of the week. That's what you got.
Yeah. So I know like you're the analytics guy. I just have like a question. Like what, like, do you just like before you go to bed, do you just like study film? Like how do you become so educated on all, I bring the funk and, I do my homework, but you're just on another level with this mock draft stuff.
Yeah, I don't sleep at this time of year, man. Come on now, look at me. I got bags under my eyes. I haven't shaved my beard in weeks. Sammy and Nello are talking about that off air. You know what? I kind of joked in my write-up earlier in my mock draft that, a lot of us, and I'm guilty of this too, you go on Twitter and you see these 45-second clips of a certain player, and you're like, damn, this guy's a freak. This guy's an absolute beast. Well, I can make a 45-second clip of Artie Burns, and you'd be like, this guy's the greatest cornerback of all time. So you have to really study the whole thing. And shout out YouTube, man. I went to IUP. The founder of YouTube went to IUP. I got to utilize it. You can watch entire games of certain players on YouTube.
Yeah, the condensed games are where it's at. If I go to bed so early because I'm up at the crack of dawn, like I watch sometimes like the Penguin games, Pirate games. It's great. So make sure
Yeah,
you subscribe to the Sick Podcast on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast.
Exactly. They'll circle one player and you could watch him the whole time, this whole game. So I've been jumping on that, and then I'll write down a grade from each game. So if I watch 3, I think it was Deontay Banks, I watched 2 or 3, and I gave him, he ended up with like an 8.0 or 8.5 total. Just give him a grade out of 10 for each game. Take the average of that, and then there you go. You're off and running. So one of these next shows, I'll give all of those grades that I've given out so far. But Banks is higher than Porter, and Banks is higher than Branch at his relative position. And I want to mention, too, I think we have Keith Sanchez coming on later this week.
Yeah, the Draft Network.
He's the Draft Network's lead senior analyst and writer. I listen to that dude all the time. So shout out these podcasts, too, that also help provide insight and info. If ultimately he does jump on, we're going to pick his brain about this mock, some of these players, the Steelers.
Yeah.
That dude is awesome over there at the Pro Football Network podcast, NFL Draft Podcast.
Definitely. Well, this has been Michael Nicastro's mock draft guru, the Sick Podcast Steeler Crazy. We'll see you guys on Thursday. Make sure to start doing those mock drafts so we can compare. Mike says that he's going to get 90% this year, correct? So we'll see.
I always say it every year. The only mock draft that matters is which one? The last one. You can't be that guy because things change. Shit changes so much.
Things change.
Like if things change. Like if you had the Steelers selecting a guard, Osiris Torrance, in the first round a couple weeks back, they sign Isaac Samalo. Obviously, that changes.
Yeah.
So it changes so much. You can never be that person if somebody gets drafted that is like, oh, I had that guy in my first mock, because you're going to end up with like 15 players overall. So the last one matters. Maybe I'll have some holdovers from this draft, but this is 2.0.
That's what I said. Just like you said, we'll end on this. Things change. The Steelers missed the playoffs. The next year, Kenny Pickett takes them to a Super Bowl. You have been watching another episode of the Sick Podcast Steeler Crazy. I'm JY. This is Michael Nicastro, and we'll see you guys soon. Stay crazy and go Steelers.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.